Good morning, everybody. I have a lot to share with you, and unfortunately right now I'm the only one able to do this. We had a very extraordinary second day. This morning, it is 8 o'clock Central Standard Time, and Jared and myself are in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is a stone's throw away from the Mississippi River. We decided, as a result of a very long day yesterday where we started a little bit late, and the result of we had a total of 12 or 13 stops yesterday, but the stops were much longer than we anticipated, so that added time into the entire day of a 1,100-mile day, which is our longest. So the combination of leaving early from New Mexico and adding time along the way resulted in a lot of us just hitting a wall. And so last night at 12:30 p.m., Steve, Grant, his wife Cammie, and Mark Menlove just bonked, and they ended up getting a hotel 3.5 hours north of here in Arkansas. And I'll tell you about a lot of the dynamics of the trip, but logistically we have Jared Hansen and myself who are here in Vicksburg. We should, by our schedule, have left about 2 hours ago on our way through the south, up through Atlanta, South Carolina, and in the night of North Carolina. The difference is today we have about 800 miles to cover opposed to 1,100. In the case of the other three that spent the night 3.5 hours up the road, there you're going to have about an 1,100 day. Fortunately, they did get some sleep. I just spoke to Mark Menlove. They got out a lot later than they hoped for. We all experimented with B12 or 5-hour energy yesterday, and it did wonders for some, and others like Steve Peacock, I think he crashed. He was vomiting this morning from what I understand, and they understand that they need to play catch up to get here. Jared and I made an executive decision that there's no use for us being up despite arriving. We arose last night, or this morning at 4:30 a.m., or about 4 o'clock a.m. Central Mountain Time, obviously going on 3 hours of sleep, but I can't sleep. It's daylight, we should be on the road, and so Jared and I are going to shove off here in about 15 to 20 minutes. And those other three guys are either going to catch up with us and do a similar day that they did yesterday and forego a lot of the extra time on the stops. We think we can do it, but Jared and I just felt we need to move on and stay to the schedule, even though we ourselves are leaving 2 hours. Well, yesterday morning we got up and we were in New Mexico, and again, it was absolutely beautiful going into North Texas. What a different scenery. The rolling hills, in fact, parts of North Texas looked a lot like Africa, with the large acacia trees and wide open rolling kind of desertous hills. I was expecting to see a giraffe or something out there. Let's see, we got into some traffic, and that really changes the dynamics of things when you're in one lane, and we've all been there, but it's hard to slow down. But at the same time, as we've covered trillions of dollars worth of interstate and highways, we realize there has to be prepared to those, and we get the beneficiary of having those roads for us. And I don't mean that in a kind of a nice kind of way, but from a pragmatic or practical way. Having a smooth road makes the motorcycle experience all the difference in the world. We did experience some tolls today right south of Oklahoma City after my sweet sister-in-law Lindsay met us at a gas station right outside of Oklahoma City with some shrimp cocktail and some sandwiches. That was a big deal to us because we've been living on granola bars and protein bars and beef jerky. We haven't had time to stop and eat. We didn't plan to do that, to stop and eat anyway. But it was nice to have real food for us that we didn't have to wait in line or be served on, because that times would be a luxury. So thank you, Lindsay, for doing that. We kind of joked that when we were eating, it was like Augustus Goop in Willy Wonka going down to the river and shoving every piece of candy in his face. That's exactly what we did, and then we moved on. I had a situation where a panel of my bike flew off, nothing really important, but we did turn around and go try to find it for 10 minutes, and we didn't. Another unfortunate situation happened earlier yesterday morning, where Mark Menlove, after getting gas, pulled forward like we normally do and parked his bike on a downward angle. When he got off, his kickstand buckled forward and the bike fell over, which we never want to see. We helped him get it up immediately, but there was some damage to the rear view mirror. The bad news is that we have a bike that laid over. The good news is it did it when it was stationary, not while we were driving. Ironically, about 7 or 8 stops later, last night I believe in Missouri, Arkansas, north top of Arkansas, we pulled in, and Steve hit something kind of on a curb next to the gas pump, and he fell over to the left. And Jared, trying to help him as soon as possible, got off his bike and either slipped or didn't put the kickstand down, so they both went over. So Mark and I were looking back at our windshields and wondering why 2 bikes have fallen over at the same time. Fortunately, there was very minimal damage, and the statement of the day from Mark Menlove was, in all seriousness, he says, "Wow, guys, you got away from that one looking really good," because of course he has a crushed rear assembly, a rear view mirror assembly. Some interesting things that happen. I mentioned construction, which isn't interesting, but it changes the dynamics of everything. As we went up to the northeast corner of Oklahoma, we had a chance to hit 3 states within basically 1 minute. We went up into Kansas and got a stop there with a fuel ticket. Leaving Oklahoma, we went down into Missouri, got another fuel stop. The ride down from Missouri into Arkansas was spectacular. A lot of rolling hills and turns. Turns is a big deal. For those who love motorcycles, turning and leaning and accelerating through those turns is really what you live for. And so when we got to do that, it reminded us how enjoyable it was, where before we'd been on kind of straight roads, construction, going very fast, making up a lot of time. So it was awesome that way. Using these computers is everything. I had a chance to talk to probably 45 people yesterday of inbound calls. I can at any time talk to the other riders. I'm listening to music, we're looking at maps, so I have my voice the way it is because I've spoken more yesterday than I have my whole life in one day. But constantly looking at maps, talking to each other, asking how we're doing, warning each other of policemen, of obstacles in the road. And then of course, this is a numbers trip. We're always talking about miles, hours, numbers, looking back, going forward. So having a glove, and I cut a hole right in my index finger on each glove so I can reach down and touch my iPad to control music and everything else. Without that, it's hard to do. So that was interesting. The Ozarks, I can't tell you guys, northern Arkansas is unbelievable. We were rolling in as the sun was going down, so casting long shadows across these beautiful rolling hills with rivers, a lot of bridges crossings with valleys. It was something out of Switzerland, which I never thought I would have said about Arkansas. But we went into the Ozarks, and again, more of the same. Unfortunately, we're just on the interstate going 70, 75 miles an hour, and the real goods are off the freeway. But anytime we talk to locals at gas station, they believe we're making a movie or something like that. So inadvertently, we're attracting a lot of attention without really telling everyone about that. So late that night, when we were supposed to be getting in at 10:30 after 1,100 miles, which is a very, very heavy day, they go down significantly from that. Steve just bonked, as did Mark Menlove, and Grant and Cammie had been pounded all day. They made up some time, leaving a little later than the three of us did out of New Mexico. So Grant caught up with us, and we made the journey, the 5 bikes all together, until Arkansas, and I forget the name. Anyway, they got a hotel, and unfortunately ate the cost of their hotels in Vicksburg because we couldn't cancel them. Jared and I made an executive decision that we would continue to go, knowing we'd be riding for another 3.5 hours, putting us in at 3:30 or 4. We were hoping 2:30. So the great thing is, it was a full moon, and the sky looked like it was morning time all the time. So the extra light that it gave us to ride in the pitch dark was not only leery, but functionally very rewarding. We were constantly talking to one another, sharing facts, learning more and more about each other, and it was incredibly enjoyable. We knew that we were in a moment of this trip that wasn't going to happen again, riding that late at night, but as long as we felt okay, we wanted to reach and try to make it to our hotel tonight, on the night of the second night. Unfortunately, we scheduled ourselves 4 hours and wake up at 8:30 a.m. this time, and then we would call Mark and Steve and Grant, hoping they would be close to get us. Grant's pretty sick. He threw up this morning. I spoke with Mark first thing, and they only pushed off about 45 minutes ago. And so Jared's still sleeping, and I decided to do this video because I can't go back to bed. The light came up, and I ended up getting only 2.5 hours today. So I'm really concerned about that. But to put things in perspective, Jared and I, in a 49-hour period starting at 4 a.m. in St. George, Tuesday morning, until when we drove into this hotel, was a 49-hour period. 43 and a half of that was driving motorcycles. The other 3.5 and 4 of that was our sleep last night in New Mexico. So we did get some sleep last night. It's not much. Jared's sleeping right now. I'm going to wake him up. But we wanted to do this video, sorry, and let everyone know how we're doing and logistically where people are. Let me just say that prayer has been a very important part of our journey. I don't want to get all corny, but Jared and I, who are business partners and also good friends, took the time before we made our journey last night to say a prayer. And excuse me. I know that really helped. It may be funny to say a prayer on something we choose to do that's extreme, but everyone needs to know how much all of us are enjoying this. We've prepared for so long, and all of the attention to detail and every plan is paid off. Last night late, when Steve and Mark and Grant varied from that plan, that was the first time, and that was the wise decision. It was very smart because they knew their bodies. And so we know that, yes, we have an objective in the 48 states in 10 days, but not at the expense of safety. So hopefully these guys are going to catch up with us either tonight or the following day. But Jared and I just don't feel like waiting around here, not moving forward, is the solution. So I'm going to sign off. I know that was a long video, but some of the best things happened yesterday, the day before. It's hard to believe we were in Utah less than 40, well, a little over 48 hours ago, and now we are in Louisiana, just across the Mississippi River from where we are in Vicksburg, Mississippi. It feels like a different country in here. I'm looking forward to going to my mission boundaries in South Carolina later this afternoon. I hope I feel good. The hope is that we can get in at 8 or 9 o'clock and then sleep 6 or 7 hours tonight and let our bodies rest up. So it was wonderful talking to everyone on the phone, listening to great music. 2 or 3 songs stick out. Number 1, Led Zeppelin, Dazed and Confused. Number 2, Lady Gaga, Poker Face. 3, Beck, Go At It Alone. And let's see, there was a 4th one that was really enjoyable. It was a Bon Jovi song, Living on a Prayer. So those are my top 4 songs, and hope everyone's enjoying this. Watch our map today. Pray for us. Call us. And we're grateful you're a part of this with us. Thanks.